This episode comes with a content warning. Please note that we will be discussing themes of trauma, sexual abuse, and depression in today's episode. If you have been dealing with suicidal thoughts, please call the suicide hotline number 988 to speak with a trained professional. Now on with our show. In her memoir, Fruit Punch, Kendra Allen's seamless and sublime merging of poetry, prose, and humor is captivating as she shares her life growing up in Dallas, Texas. Forging her way through family turmoil and unspeakable moments of sexual abuse, Allen finds herself in the chair of her therapist's office, attempting to work through the childhood memories that she continues to come back to over and over again. We take a deep and hilarious dive into the life of this talented writer as Allen shares with us her life growing up with a mother who would show up at funerals of veterans she never knew. She also tells us how this book helped her to address things she tried so hard to say in her previous poetry collections. Stay with us on another episode of the Vulgar Geniuses podcast. Are you currently looking for a bookstore that has a great selection of books? Well, Kizzy's Books and More is that bookstore. Visit www.kizzy'sbooksandmore.com to purchase your next book for our book club. Use coupon code VulgarGenius to receive 10% off the subtotal of your first order. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Vulgar Geniuses podcast. We are your hosts.
My name is Denny.
And I am Veronica. And we have a very amazing guest today. And I just want to say, like, this work that we're getting ready to talk about has moved me in a way that I have not been moved since reading Kiese Layman's work. And we will tie all of that into this conversation later, because this is the moment where we gush and we try to get it all out of our system. But I'm so excited to welcome to the podcast Miss Kendra Allen. Kendra Allen is our nonfiction pick of the month for Black History Month.
Mm-hmm.
We had to choose the blackest option, and we went with Fruit Punch. And this memoir is nothing less than brilliant, and we are so excited to talk with her. Kendra Allen was born and raised in Dallas, Texas. She loves laughing, leaving, and writing Make Love in My Car, a music column for Southwest Review. Some of her other work can be found in or on the Paris Review, High Times, The Rumpus, and more. She's the author of the poetry collection, The Collection Plate, an essay collection, When You Learn the Alphabet, which won the 2018 Iowa Prize for Literary Nonfiction. Fruit Punch, her memoir, is out now. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm just trying to accept that love and giving it right back. Just know I'm giving it right back. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on, because I was telling Denny today, I was like, I feel like this is going to be a really good conversation just based off of the way that she wrote in her email. I just felt like the energy was something that I need it. Sometimes we'll have guests on and, they're very formal, but I just felt like in your email, I was like, oh, this is going to be a fun conversation and we're going to get into it. And I can't wait to talk about your work. One thing that I wanted to know, if you would be willing to read an excerpt from your book. I meant to say that before we started the podcast,
but this is where we cut this in post.
Yes, let me just scroll. You know what's a wild thing? I literally just sent the last copy of the book to somebody this morning, but I have it on my phone and I will definitely read for y'all.
Okay.
I was like, let me get this book out of my house.
Well, while you're looking for that, we're going to just like ask you like a quick question before we get started. We normally like to give people hot seat questions to warm guests up, but I feel like you're already there. So we're just going to just jump into a question before we get into the read.
Okay,
Yes.
go ahead.
What was the last song and or album that you listened to?
Why this question was, I don't know what in my spirit. I was listening to music before I got on here. I was like, watch somebody ask me what I was listening to, and it's gonna be something trash or problematic, and I'm gonna have to switch it. But I was listening to let me pull up. I was listening to I was listening to Forever by 8 Ball and MJG.
Okay.
Lloyd. That's an old song. And I was listening to News or something by Future, which unfortunately I listen to a lot of Future. I don't know why. Don't ask me that.
You like what you like. You like what you like. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
He just make me feel like how I need to feel to talk to people, you know, like he makes me feel like he's not in the wrong, even though I know everything he's saying, he's the problem. But he say it so smoothly, I'm like, I'll let you pass. It makes me feel powerful. So yeah.
One thing I really admire and I'm starting to notice more in people's work is the influences of other artistic outlets. And I was just curious, like when you sit down and you're writing, do you write with the music on? Or is there like a certain album like I have to listen to this when I write every single time, or you don't listen to anything and it just comes, or is there just no rhyme or reason, you just do whatever you do?
I can't like write listening to music because I'm gonna be rapping, singing, dancing. I'm not gonna write. Like if I find any excuse not to write, I'm not gonna do it. And so I used to try to do it and like tell myself I can work through the sounds, but I can't multitask. I don't know what's going on in my brain. I start writing the lyrics out.
Same. Like people would like read or like do like when I knew I cannot do homework with music, that's when I know I'm like I can't multitask. She can do that. Not this one.
But it depends on the task.
Okay. What about like instrumentals? Can y'all work with just I know like I have writer friends who write to music, like movie scores. And I can do that because it's not words, but like if words is in it, I'm gonna try to pay attention to what they saying. But
yeah, for me, it's like classical music. Like I feel like I'm sitting in Panera, and so it's just like that white noise. It's not really anything that I'll be like, oh, what did he do on that violin? Like I'll just keep focused. But yeah, if it's words, then I'm like you. I'll start singing or rhyming or whatever.
It's a concerto in my head. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
I'm like the conductor. I'm like, what? It doesn't matter if there is sound.
You can talk in the background while I'm writing all day. It's just like the music part. I don't know.
Yep. Yeah. It brings me to places like my brain gets like, oh, are we in an ocean? What is happening? There's some crescendo. Like, no, not gonna work.
That's hilarious.
So now is the time where we will ask if you wouldn't mind reading an excerpt from Fruit Punch.
For sure. Would you like me to preface it before?
Yes. Yes,
okay.
please.
Okay. So I'm gonna read a short little vignette called Coming of Age, and it's self-explanatory. Okay, it's one very long run-on sentence, and yeah, so if it feels like I'm rushing, it's on purpose. All right. Coming of age. It's an embarrassing correlation, but one summer, LA sends me this book-length text about how she feels I'm being sneaky and hiding things from her when all she's trying to do is make sure I'm safe around the people I'm with, and how I don't even call her while I'm in Houston for months. And when I do, I'm acting like I'm in a rush to get off the phone. And sometimes she feels sick at the thought of other people touching me. And I'm 16 and 6. And the longer I read, the madder I get. So I start to cry only because I'm exhausted that I got to be everybody's parent. And I'm too scared to cry in the light. So I touch myself at midnight under doll's roof and think about sounds to stop myself from spiraling. And this is the only way I know how, because sex and shame in myself has become a lifeline I've been conditioned to be good at. And sex and shame with myself is the only thing I got that I can control. So I use my fingers to slide across the slit between my thighs, and I'm sweating. But even under the covers, I feel watched as an involuntary tear pops when things feel good. And I get scared and think I'll turn into a pool and then into a different person who can't stop crying, even though I desperately want to do so, but I lay very still instead, even though I'm almost 17 or 7. It's easy to be, I'm late for everything, and everything I do that's been worth it, I've done last minute, because I tend to learn so much about myself in the panic. And I touch myself wholly, meaning I can read, y'all, I promise. I touch myself wholly, meaning I put both hands over me for protection from myself since they can't fit in me, and lay very still as if any sudden movement would proceed in my door being opened and me being caught. And I turn everything into a survival tactic because that's how I master it. Because anything that wants to progress will. Like how at first it's my hand, then the shower faucet, then you hate yourself, then it's insert object here, then you remember you can cry, you can feel, then you hate yourself because it takes so much to feel. Then you punishing yourself for feeling, but you can't stop because overstimulation is the only way it feel like you won't disperse into your bloodline. Then it's hours on the floor in a locked closet. Then you hate yourself. Then it becomes the only way you can cry. And it becomes a conversation, then a secret, then humiliation, then a lie. Then it's just your life, and it happens so fast and it happens so loudly, and you form a lot of habits and cry under covers in houses you don't belong in while trying to see if there's a difference between crying and coming, and how once you ask your mama if y'all can go to therapy together because you think maybe y'all are too codependent, and she looks at you like you just said your cousin touched you in the spot they shouldn't have because she can't understand what it is to discuss when she's your best friend, and you hate yourself. So of course you try to outdo yourself, and it's not as hard as everyone may think. And everyone thinks you're the loveliest, most secure girl in the world because you do things well and still manage to be kind about it. And once you do it so long, you wish you could tell somebody how the legs don't necessarily shake more than they stiffen, like a shiver when the temperature drops without warning, a knee-jerk reaction, a sneeze you've been waiting all day to blow, or whiplash, how you made yourself stop breathing, and when you go to wipe, you see blood, you open yourself for yourself. It's how you know nothing that is yours could ever be taken, even if you got to cry through it, how you inhale through it, since life is about breathing, how you wonder if this is why we always break, how sometimes you think, what if you die like this, found lifeless with your eyes rolled into the back of your head, your fingers stiff, your blood uncirculated, your mind blown from too much triggering, how you wonder what lie will be created to cover up who you are one last time, and you hate yourself. But when you do things well, you forget, and you love yourself. You really love yourself for your brain, mostly. And they look to you for all the answers, even though you're only 4 years old, and you don't know how to say you barely a shell when they love you for having so much fun. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm just curious, like when people are asking you to read and you're choosing where you want to start from, is it from a place of what I'm comfortable with reading today?
With this book, if I'm being honest, it's like one or two choices that I'm gonna choose from that I can get through. Because I haven't really read the book all the way through front to back. Besides doing the audio book, that was the first time I read it like straight through. And I was like, whoo, hell no, never again. And so when people ask me to read, like sometimes I have to tell myself, you can say no, Kendra. Like you don't gotta read it. Like you don't if you don't want to. But then it's that other part of my brain is like, Kendra, how dare you say no when you've been working to ask somebody, hey, can you read your work? So it's like that duality. But I know like with what I just read, coming of age for me, I'm comfortable enough to read it because I feel like it sums up the entirety of the book without me having to overly explain certain things. And I read that or I read like something towards the beginning, but it's some things in there that I'm just like, I don't, not that it's like only hard to get through, but it's hard for me to find like the rhythm to make it interesting to hear, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you sharing from this book. It's definitely one that I said has really shook me to my core.
Yeah.
Has brought up a lot of stuff just for me in general about just how women are perceived and the expectations and the things that happen and the things that are held and get untold until necessary. So I just want to say thank you for writing this book. And like I said, it really reminded me of Kiese Layman. Like it could be a compliment to his memoir himself for Heavy. And it is also you are the third. We've talked to a lot of people, and you are the third person that we have talked to where I'm just like, I gotta find everything that this person has written. And I really did myself an injustice of waiting too long to pick it up because I'm like, damn, she got all of this other stuff and she got this and this and this. And I'm like, I wish I could have devoured everything before we had this conversation just so I can just like really be in your head. But we're gonna go with what we got.
No, thank you. Because if I'm being honest, everything I've written before that has been me trying to write that. So don't trip on that. Like if you ask me, I'm like, skip them other books.
Like this is the real deal, Holyfield. This is where you need to start.
And see, I appreciate that honesty because I also listened to your book. And I'm gonna be honest with you because you're very honest with us. I told Veronica, I was like, after like one part, I'm like, I need to have a come to Jesus moment. I need like to give myself a second or a day or two. And sometimes I just want to be like, I would tell my child, let's go outside because I need to shake my head. I need to like refresh my heart. Like, and it took me a minute because, we're like, oh yeah, like with a book, like we can get through like this. It'll be quick. But this packs heavy, like heavy. And, I was kind of like, I'm proud that I finished the book. Because I told I almost told Veronica, man, I don't know. Like she did put in the front, it's okay. It's okay. With whatever, it's okay. But I felt it. I felt it so much.
I don't want to say thank you for thank you for sharing that with me. Yeah, thank you. I felt the same way. And I don't think I felt that way while writing it. I didn't understand what I was writing until like hindsight. And it's like, girl, what did you do?
Something that was very needed by a lot of people. That's what you need, but that's what you did. Because it's something that we all think that we need to talk about, but not everybody's brave to actually put words in those feelings and experiences. Yes, you are like 20 times bigger than this book. I don't know. I can't do it. So before we get into the inside of this book, can we please talk about this cover?
Yes.
So
Yes.
when Veronica got this book, my son is obsessed with your cover, and he kept asking, Auntie, what is this? Why is this like this? And tell what he told you.
Yeah, he wanted to know, why can you see the inside and you can't see the other side? And I had already started to read the book and didn't really make that connection until he like actually asked. And I was like, I think it has something to do with what she's writing about and her showing herself to us through what she's writing about and the difficult things within the book. Is my analysis correct of your pick?
Yes,
But also no.
yeah, like it always works out. So I would say yes. With the cover, I knew, like, I was looking at William Villalongo's work. That's when I was like on social media, still on Twitter, and I would like just follow Black art and like things like that. And I don't really know nothing about art. I just like, if it look good, I'm like, oh, okay, I like it. And I had seen some of his other work, and it was like a darker piece. And I always like lean towards that because in my head I think that means deep, but that ain't always true. But I was looking and they were asking me about like covers, and I would always just send like list of artists who I see like on social media. So I was like, we need to be talking about these people. And I just sent like a list of artists, and I was like, hey, look at him. And they actually found the cover and they sent it to me, and just like that duality of it, with the colorful images, because like I said, I always lean towards like muted colors, like earthy tones, like browns and stuff like that. And it just was popping so much, like the colors, and it was intricate, but then it was also like it literally shows like the ins and out of what's inside of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, yeah, that's it. And it is attention grabbing. It is it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. He's amazing. But I can't say that I like picked it on purpose, but it worked out to be absolutely perfect for it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful cover. And I'm just curious, like just the title itself, like Fruit Punch. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I have this running theme I realize in all my work where I'm gonna talk about my period. In every single thing, I'm like, okay, this happens all the time, and every single time it happens, I don't understand why it's happening. And why is it like so violent when it does happen. And I've been like that since I was little. I would always just look at the blood. This is probably oversharing. Like I would always just look at the blood, like inside of the pad, or like inside of the toilet, or like in the shower. And I'm just like, sometimes it's thick, sometimes it's like runny, sometimes it's like invisible, like discharge, like it's just all these different things. Sometimes it's black, like, and I'm like, what is going on inside of me? And so as a kid, I would be like, what can I compare this to? And I'm trying to describe like the pain to people, or like the feeling. And I always thought of fruit punch, or not fruit punch, but Hawaiian punch. And then like looking back, I also had like the name Kool-Aid growing up, a nickname. And I wish I would have named the book Kool-Aid, but it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. But when I think of Hawaiian Punch, I think of it being like thick and tart and gross. And I kind of felt that way about the blood coming out of my body, even though it's not gross at all. It's not none of these things, but in my child mind, that's what I compared it to. And I wanted like that child voice to be like thorough all around, of like, when you ask kids things like what they remind them of, they say things that they see or that they do or like they drink. I'm drinking Hawaiian Punch as a kid. I'm drinking Capri Suns. And every time I drink Hawaiian Punch, I'm like, this look like some menstrual blood.
Yes. And you know what? When you said that, like fruit punch, and I'm like, Hawaiian punch, I'm like, you know, I've never thought about it, but it is. And I was like, how did it take me like 30 something years to figure this out? How?
Yes.
Because
I'm glad it resonated. I'm glad.
yes. And like when you said like that you want that child in you to talk, and I feel like I think that's why this book connects to a lot of people, because they don't realize that it's their inner kid that's actually reading this book. And it's like their inner self that's actually healing while reading this book.
And remembering, which is hard.
Yes.
Which is hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanna first talk to you about this thread of home that we see throughout this book and the various houses that are coupled with these memories throughout the book. And starting with the beginning of the book, where you go to this tree house and there's this moment that happens. When you think about when you sat down to write this memoir, did you know that you wanted to write what happens in houses and the secrets tied to them, as well as your personal attachment and detachment of the places that were once home for you?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. Thank you for asking me that. No, though. No, I didn't know what I was writing about until like maybe a couple months before the draft was due. Because I started writing this book in grad school, and that was actually the first thing I ever wrote from the book, was the treehouse section. And in it, I like presented it to a workshop, and they were reading it. This is like how repressed memory work. Like that's what's so crazy. It's like I presented like that treehouse chapter, albeit it was like different than what it turned out to be. But I presented it, and like the people in the class would write notes on it, and they was like, oh, like it was just like, are you okay? And like, oh my God, this is why I don't do this. And it was just like all this. And I'm like, what are y'all talking about? This is supposed to be funny. Like that's how delusional I've been about my entire childhood. Of like, I would be telling these stories to people as jokes, and they're looking at me like, girl, is you okay? Like, do you need a hug? I'm like, what you talking about? I wrote that, and I didn't keep writing. I actually started writing poetry after that, because I was like, wait a minute, something going on, and I don't know what's going on. I feel it worse now, to be honest. Of like, I don't know what just happened or what I wrote or like what it means. But when I think of like home, I always tell people I moved like 13 times before I graduated high school. And it was just every single year, it was just normal. And I would anticipate the vacancy, and like I would anticipate being able to go and like being able to start over, not realizing that like I'm uprooted like by nature. And like I have this antsy spirit inside of me. That's how I ended up in San Antonio, of like this, just like this energy of movement, and like I can't stay still, and I can't sit in silence. Like that's the thing that's like messing me up right now. Like I just can't do it. And when I started writing about like all these different places, like different apartments, the house, my family members' houses, and things like that. Those were the moments that I can remember sitting. Even if it wasn't like sitting with myself, it was the moments that I can remember like laying down, or like the moments I can remember being stuck. That's what I should say. Like when I think of like home, I thought of it as like stuck, or like can't leave. And the treehouse section was just like the catalyst to like remember all those other times of like sitting inside a place where it's supposed to feel close knit, and like, and it is close knit. My family is very, very close, but like me not feeling stuck to them, but feeling stuck to like the walls, and like they're closing in, and like I didn't have the language for that as a child, and only writing, like looking at it like physically seeing the evidence of like those places and those spaces, was I able to be like, that's how I felt. Because even while writing, I'm not making those connections. Like sometimes that shit just be falling out of you and you don't know. You don't know that you like making threads, and you don't know that you're like braiding an essay together, and you don't know that all this makes sense in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, that's my very long answer.
Was there ever a moment that you can think of in your childhood? And if you don't have an answer, you don't want to answer, I totally understand. But a moment where you felt like you were rock steady where you were? Or has it always been this consistent need for movement?
I always, this is the thing, because I always felt steady when I was with my mama. Like, because my mama is on the move as well. Like, rarely a weekend at home. We at church all week. On the weekends, we taking people to the grocery store. My mom would do this thing where, my mom is a character. She would do this thing where like we would just be driving, and like she would pick up mothers off the like at the bus stop, and she see like a mom with like groceries and stuff. She would stop the car and be like, "Hey, you want to ride? Like, I'll take you home." Or like if she's sitting with their kids, and I'm just like, thinking back, I'm like, she on the move, on the go for her own reasons, that she can't sit still, and she trying to overly exert herself and overly help other people to like ease something inside of herself. And like she just pick up strangers, take them places. I'm in the car and everybody would be like, why are you doing that with your child in the car? Like picking up strangers, you don't know what's happening. And she's like, I'll be all right. Like
she had faith in the moment. Everything was gonna work out.
Yeah, she was restless. Like even as a kid, when I tell the story to people, they do not believe me. Like my mama would go to take me to random people's funerals that even she does not know. Like she would like, she worked at the VA, and so she would look through the obituary or like on the news, and they'll be like, somebody died, they didn't have family, and they're gonna be at the funeral home. She would come get me from the wreck after school. I'm thinking we going home. She like, we finna go to this wake. I'm like, who died? She would take me to like these random funerals. So I've been around that since I was like 5, just going to these things. And she would get up at the wakes and speak.
What? Wait, for people that she did not know?
My mama would get up, you know, when they have like the different people like talking, and she would get up and say generic things. It would be like, you know, it's not sad, and you know, y'all should not feel sad with death. You know, just giving encouraging words. People, bro, I swear, people would be in tears, and I'm like, this lady do not know your cousin.
See, now I want to join that island. I want to be in that island too. Sign me up, because we're about to have a show in that island.
Oh my God.
It's crazy. So I would just be with her like on the move, and that felt home-like for me. Like even with this craziness, it's not registering that this is crazy, and this lady not crazy, but it's something that you going to these random people's funerals and speak it. Like you very bold.
But it comes from love though. You know?
Yes, she's very genuine. And I think that's why like they get that emotional reaction. But that's when I felt most rooted, is like on the road with her in a car, because I know we probably going to help somebody. But then on the flip side of that, it's like a martyrdom that like maybe both of us can't acknowledge, of like and that has a lot to do with religion too, of her feeling like being self-sacrificial makes her a good person instead of, or a worthy person, versus just making her tired and resentful, because like you don't pour into yourself. So that's the flip side of that. But yeah.
Man,
I
that
just
could be
had
a
to
whole
share
TV
that.
show right
Yes,
there.
it's a
It's like
sitcom.
or like Touched by an Angel. You know how like the people would just show up and just talk to the people and comfort them. Like that's what that
Hey,
is.
I done seen a lot of dead bodies, and I just be looking.
This is a CBS show in the making.
Yes. She write it too, because it gotta be funny.
Yes.
So when you were telling your story, this is, I think, one of my favorites. When things happen, always is presented in a rage. When you say I might be 7, 10, or 8, and every time you say that, like I like have this like little happy dance in my heart. I think it affected me the most, since when young people talk about their life experiences, older people in power tend not to believe them because their trauma cannot be quantified in a given point in time. Can you please talk more on how important it was for you to choose to write certain things like that?
Yeah. Thank you for that too. It was just very important for me because I feel like most days I'm still in that blurry trance of like not knowing the when. Like, and still maybe 75% of the what I'm still confused on.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel stuck in specific ages, 9, 14, 21, 25. Like I feel very like if you ask me if anything happened to me at a certain age, I'm gonna name one of those ages, even though that's not always true. But that soothes my brain and like that eases it for me in a certain extent, because I think part of it, like you said, if I said something happened to me when I was 9 versus 25, in my head, the age shouldn't matter, because I told you it happened. But like you said, when adults hear like a child being vocal about anything, or like having a follow-up about anything, or having a qualm with anything, it's always shot down with like, I'm trying to find the right word. It's almost like adults, because they did not, I felt this as a kid all the time, of like adults not liking me. Like, and kids feel that. Like kids feel that. Like, you're taking care of me, but I know you don't like me. And I know you don't like me, especially when I speak, or like especially when I have something to say back. And I think it's because sometimes when we grow up and we get through stuff and get to the other side of it, or like the other side of adulthood, and you see a child saying something that you couldn't say when you were a kid, or like couldn't convey when you were a kid, or that you couldn't stand up for yourself when you were a kid, which you are a kid, so understandable. But when they see kids do that, it's like, why do you get to do it and I didn't? So I'm just like gonna push you to the side, because like, what makes you special? Or like, why do I gotta believe you? Nobody believed me. Or like, why, even though they don't even mean it like that, but like that trauma is like being brought up with your presence. Like sometimes you ain't even got to say a word, because I noticed that with living with my little cousins. Like I would just see them and I'm like, oh my God, like something happened. Or like you just feel like something is off, and you don't know how to approach it if you've never approached it for yourself. And so it starts looking like disregard, or like abuse, or like all these like words where you are dismissing the reality of a kid, because when you were a kid, nobody thought anything you went through was viable, because you were a child, and like they trying to control you and make you puppets. And I felt that my entire, like I knew that from 6-7 years old, of like, and I think that's part of being the youngest. Like you're seeing everybody around you older. Like you see an 11-year-old, a 35-year-old, and a 67-year-old all displaying the same behavior. And you like, what is going on? Like you 6, but you seeing all these different stages of life. And it's all culminating the same, like the behavior, the feelings, like nobody has outgrown anything or like faced anything. And so when I'm playing with those ages like that, that's kind of what I was trying to convey of like, we ain't grown.
Yeah,
We ain't grown. We just kids having kids.
yeah, we think we
Yeah.
are though.
And don't
Yeah.
nobody know anything, you know, because it's like no one knows nothing when they become a parent for the very first time. We're all just out here winging it, basing it off of what you were told as a child, and you know, you're hoping that when you have a child that you've worked out all of the shit that you didn't work out
But
when you needed to have it worked out, like all the
yet.
harm and stuff. And yeah, so everybody just need to be in therapy. Everybody just need to be sitting on somebody
for years before the kids come.
So I want to talk to you about the work, right? And not only in just this particular memoir, but the work that you had to do, be it through therapy or just using your art to process trauma that you went through. Will you speak to us about what it was like to sit down and piece together these feelings that either you may have pushed way back into the pit of your mind or that you found yourself ruminating about on a regular basis?
I didn't remember that I remembered, like I said, until, okay, if I'm being honest, I think part of me gave up on writing the book midway through. It was a lot. It was too much because, like I said, I went to therapy and like I thought that I talked through some stuff and like I was honest about some stuff and I got some answers to some things, but writing it was really hard. And when I got towards the end, I was just like, I can't look at it no more. Take it. Like I really don't care no more because it's like what's they say the first stages of grief is? What is it?
Is it denial?
Denial.
Yeah. So therapy was me in denial. And then when the book is out, it's like this unveiling of now you gotta deal with it. Or like now you actually gotta process it. And I thought I was processing it in therapy and I wasn't at all. I was just regurgitating like my memory and how it was fickle and how it's not all the way reliable. Yeah, I don't think I answered your question.
I think you did, because it feels
yeah.
like, you ever play like Super Mario?
Yes.
And, you know, like you get to one level and you beat King Koopa, and then you're like, oh, I gotta go to the next world, and then King Koopa is there again, and it's like, why does this man keep appearing?
That's
right?
a perfect
that's
analogy.
Like how it is when you're dealing with trauma, and you're like, okay, I worked this out.
I'm good today.
Yes. That's a perfect analogy. And I think that also applies to the drafting process because it's like that next level of like, okay, this is the book I think I'm writing. Here's one draft. It's like 40 drafts, 20, 30, 40 drafts. And every single time it gets smaller and smaller for me. Like this book has 60,000 extra words. And I was just like, ain't no way I'm finna work through 60,000 extra more words because it becomes like repetitive and not repetitive, it becomes like redundant because of the lack of processing that I've done in regards to like what's inside of it. So it would just be me repeating the same thing over and over. And I didn't want to do that. And then like I get to the next level or like the next revision and it's just like, oh my God, I'm finna die. Like that's exactly like, not to be dramatic, but that's how it felt. And I remember like the book got pushed back 2 times. It was supposed to come out like 6 months before it came out, and it kept getting pushed back because I couldn't finish it. And like every time I would receive notes, it was like I would just rewrite the book completely. It wasn't me revising. I would just rewrite the entire thing because now I can name the word, like it hurt too much to keep having to reread certain stuff. And I didn't realize that until like very recently, like what I was actually feeling in the writing process and why it was taking so long. And I was beating myself up about that because I'm pretty good with deadlines and like I'm pretty good with knowing what I'm writing once I get to a certain spot. Like not in the beginning, but like once I get to like that 20th draft, I'm pretty familiar with it, and I can never get to that space with Fruit Punch. I can never, like I said, I couldn't read through it. And so part of me feels like I just threw it together. And part of me was just like, here, take it. Like I can't do it. And yeah, I didn't know how to verbalize like those feelings in order to like give it my best foot, if that makes sense. Yeah.
What was it to work with your editor in that space? Because like, you know, you're writing this and then you have to hand it over to somebody who's gonna, you know, say, okay, you know, we need this, we don't need this. What was that experience like?
It was mostly like my editor being like, I can't really tell you about your own life, you know, like I can't really guide you with that. But thankfully, I'm very good at editing myself. If school ain't teach me nothing else, it taught me how to do that. And and I'm like, before I even share with anybody, I've already went through multiple things and I've tried 100 different things. So like when I send it out, the bones are there and like I know how to structure it, if that makes sense. But the editing process was really just like, Kendra, you can't keep rewriting it. Like we can't keep pushing this book back. You're gonna have to stop. That was like mostly it. But in regard to like line notes and things like that, it would be like grammar things and stuff like that. But mostly it was just like, I don't know how to. It's weird. It's kind of like therapy too, because I also had a therapist tell me this before of like, I don't know how to help you. And I'd be like, it's your job. You seem self-aware, like you know what to do. I'm like, what do you mean? So it was that. And for a little bit, like I understood what my editor was saying because only I really know like how to do it. But yeah.
When did you know that your writing can actually like affect people, like emotions and like how they think? And when did it click like, oh, this is it, I found what I wanted to do?
I knew um I knew it clicked emotionally with people before I knew it was good at all. In undergrad, I would be like in workshops and like I would read and people were oddly quiet and like silent. And not like in a I'm not listening way, but like I could feel eyes on me. And it would be like, whatever what was, like I said, I don't know what I'm writing. I don't know what I mean to say until I write it down. And so I'm testing it out. And people would be quiet and like pay attention to me. And it was something that I ran from my entire life since I was a kid, of like attention and like people looking at me. I would downplay everything I ever done if I got too much attention for it because I would lose friends, or like I would have somebody always trying to like make me smaller because I'm being myself. So that's been something I struggled with my whole life, of just downplaying myself and not wanting to like intimidate people with my personality, like just being who I am. And so when I started writing, essays, and I was writing a lot about my parents, and I would read not thinking none of it. I'm trying to see, like, my whole thing would be like, tell me what's wrong with it so I can fix it, or like tell me the bad parts. Like, I don't need to hear the good, because like I said, it always in my past, it's always been that, and like of like this fear of greatness, not fear of greatness, because I will always put my best foot forward and I will always try my hardest, but like this fear of what comes with popularity. And not even like in a big way, but I always ran from it, and then even with the running from it, it found me still. So I'm like, oh, girl, just you're a personable person, it's okay. And so I think with writing, when I felt like that silence and like the eyes on me, it was different than like as a kid when people would look at me with like maybe a different type of eye. And it felt like they were seeing me in like a different way. Yeah, and so I knew like I liked that feeling, but I also just always loved language and words and lyrics and music like that. Like even in the past when I would get shut down or like I would be made small, I would always turn to language and like words to like calm me down or like put me back in that space of like just keep doing what you're doing, put your head down, keep working, whatever gonna happen. And so I think in undergrad when I would do that, that made me be like, okay. And then I always had professors. I was very, very lucky in undergrad to have like professors around me who encouraged me and like who told me, hey, you know, you can do this, because that was my whole thing. I didn't know like if you could write for a living, if you could like how to get a book. Like they don't teach you that. You just really in there. They trying to teach you how to teach, and I'm not trying to teach. I'm not nobody's teacher. I can't do it. I'm really a student, and so I would have like the encouragement of like people I respected and people who I admired, and I would just be like, yeah, you can do it. Like just keep doing it. But yeah, I knew I always wanted to work with words. I didn't always think I would write books though. So that's been interesting.
So going back earlier when you said, when we're talking about like quantifying our traumas, if anything could have changed for you before, like how would you want like those adults would have responded to you instead?
Just hug me. Yeah. Just like touch me. Let me know. It's like just acknowledge me. Like I think that was going back to like my last answer of why those eyes felt violent. Like whenever I would get them, because at home, like that love was not shown that way. Like I would get love based on what I did and not who I am. Like, so it would be like if I'm performing, if I'm on a stage, if I'm doing something that you can brag about, if I'm doing something that makes you proud, I felt the love that way. So that's why I'm low-key workaholic now, or like low-key obsessive and perfectionist and all these words I'm trying to unlearn now, because that was the only time that like I felt genuine love. But it wasn't genuine because it was based on the condition of me entertaining you, or like it was based on the condition of me making you laugh, making you feel better. And so I think I would want the adults to just just hug me, bro. I don't know, just hug me, because it's weird. It's weird. Touch is weird. Tenderness is weird. My definition of tenderness, like my visual definition of tenderness, has been hard hands and like claps. It's extremes. It's either claps or like hard hands. And my mama asked me a couple years ago, she was like, did I say I love you? Like when she started watching my little cousins, she would be like, did I say I love you a lot growing up? And I was like, I don't think so, but like I knew you loved me, but like I don't think you said it. But yeah, I'll stop.
No, like as a parent, that makes the most sense to me, because when my child would having this like tantrum from like hell, and then crying, doing the most, when they come to you and would sit on me, you're like, the last thing you would want to do as a human being is to touch you, because you're pushing all my buttons. But what do they want? They would be like, just touch me. And
Yes.
even though like you're screaming in my ear, that's what I gotta do. And then like you realize like, oh, it's the only thing they need. And after that, like I can talk to him.
Yes.
And then like when you said like, oh, your mom never really said I love you to you, like I'm trying to break that if I can in my little way, because I also never heard it. So when I would see like my parents act like in front of my child, I'm like, who are these people?
Yes.
Like, what is going on? Where was this when I was this little?
And it's like, how is this possible?
Yes, like,
and then it's like, if you can do it with them, why couldn't you do it for me? Like, and you don't want to think that, but it's just where your brain goes. Yes, for sure. It's just like where your brain goes. Like, you really be like, so you just ain't give a damn about my feelings. Like,
yes. Yes. And then,
because it's not hard to do, because you're doing it so easily now.
Yes, that's how I'm like, whew. Anyway.
Yes.
That's a whole other podcast.
Yes.
So, talking about relationships with your parents, you have a very unique one with your mom, and it is one of dedication, as well as one that tests the lines of emotional and mental boundaries at times that we see within the book. What is it to have someone that you love so much and watch you champion your work, but also someone that you have to recognize that may not always fully grasp the understanding of the details that you wish that they would?
It's devastating. It's honestly like, it's been the most devastating thing I've ever faced. Honestly, it's like a refusal, low key. It's like not a refusal, but like an inability of like, and I know that's a trauma response too. And then like I'm always it's been weird because I do have a lot of empathy for parents in general. I have empathy for everybody, but with my mama in particular, because our relationship is so, the lines of it is so blurred. Like I'm her life. Like I've been her life. And I've been her child. I've been her daughter. I've been her husband. I've been her son. I've been her, like, all these roles that I have to play. And like I said, I didn't think it was nothing out of the ordinary until maybe a year ago. I thought this was just like what you do. And I think like with this book, it's been very devastating to see like the things that has transpired from it, and how like I've been forced to change the dynamic of like our relationship, or like the closeness of it. It's like a breakup, low key, if I'm being honest. It's low key like a romantic breakup, if I'm being 100% like honest with you, because of those lines being all over the place. And I ain't never had no romantic breakup that like I felt anything for. And so it's like this devastation of losing your best friend, losing like the person that you know will just be there for you, or like not losing them like they're just not in my life, but like losing the ideal and like the connection, and like the severity of the connection, and knowing that in order for me to survive, that's gone, like I have to do that. Like I have to do that in order to want to be here, like to want to keep going, and I can't keep what's the word, I can't keep comforting somebody who like dismisses everything that I say and feel. Like that's insanity, and I've been doing this since I was a kid. And so now it's just like, that's been like it's been very hard. It's been very hard and very sad, and like hard to to digest because my mama has been like my best friend. And like my mom has been like the only person like I feel I can be myself with. And it's like, dang, am I gonna get this back with somebody? Or like, should I ever, not will I get this back, but like this fear of no, but like this, it's like a fear of like ever becoming that codependent with somebody else. It's that I don't want to recreate it. That's the weird thing about it. Like it's hurting, it hurts and it's devastating, but I don't want to recreate that with somebody else. Like I don't want to be codependent with somebody like that. I don't want to not be able to see the reality of situations because I'm so codependent on somebody with somebody who should be honestly, doing that, like showing the empathy to me and like doing all the things I'm doing for you, you should be doing for me because I am your child. I'm nothing more than just your child. So yeah, that's been like the weird space that I've been in for like a year. Yeah.
Has anybody in your family, like other than your mom and your family, also, that did you have to talk to them like, hey, this is gonna happen? Or, like were there, even for your mom, were there any conversations like, oh, just so you know, fruit punch is coming out in, T-2 months?
I gave my family, I gave all my family, like my immediate family, arcs of Fruit Punch, and I like had them read it before it come out. But nobody talked to me about this book at all. I had to, with my mom, I had to bring the book up. With my granny, I had to bring the book up, knowing that they read it, but like nobody talked to me about it at all. They talked to each other about it and wanted to ask questions to other people, but that's just like another testament of like what I've been saying. Yeah, it all the onus going back, like the expectation of me to like have the emotional intelligence and like the language and like everything to comfort them for my experience. So it's been that and that's been disheartening as well, that like I said, I've been living in a delusion for a long time, and it's been disheartening to be like they just don't care or like they just don't think that I think that's what it is. It's because I built up like that blankness and like that ability to just carry on and like nothing is happening, that I think they truly think Kendra is okay. Like Kendra would be okay. Whatever she going through, she'll be okay. If she depressed, she'll get over it. If she it's just another book, like it's that. So yeah, it hasn't, I would have loved to have conversations, but I'm not finna baby grown people. I can't do it. Right. Yeah. I can baby my cousins if they want to talk about it. I can't baby y'all though.
Yeah. Now outside of your family and the book coming out, what is it to have like all your business out in the front street for like regular consumers like us to take in? Are you, is it easier for us to be able to talk to you or about it versus like, like, oh, what would my family think about this book that has come out?
It hasn't been easier, but it's been freeing in a way, because I think like readers are helping me identify like threads and connections and like themes that maybe I wasn't aware of. And like I said, I just feel seen, and it made me realize that I have not felt seen, so I'm very appreciative of that. It's been hard to talk about it. Like when the book came out, I was kind of like traveling a lot for like 6 months straight. and I kind of overestimated my ability because I've been writing and telling my business from the jump, but like this was like in a different way. And I realized I've only been doing it because I couldn't do it in real life. Like I could not do it in real life, and writing it down was the only way that I could remember it happened, or like I could remember how I felt, or and things like that. But I overestimated my ability to be able to like be on a panel or like get interviewed or like those things. I overestimated how much I can take from it, and I'm learning to say no to certain things. But I would say like the readers have made me feel like it's worth it in a sense. Cause I had like moments of being like, girl, why did you do that? Like you be talking about mental health issues in the past, and like you finna get 5 more mental health issues just dealing with this. You finna be on a lot of meds.
It's like your brain is like, all right, boys, she's finished with this one. Bring up the next one.
Yes, like what is it? Like, give me the right diagnosis because y'all lying.
But
oh yeah, it's like knowing that you had to do something in order to know what you need to do next. Yeah. But the entirety of it has been just like very heavy and dark, and yeah, and like sometimes like I don't want to leave my apartment type. Not I don't want to, but like I physically can't. Like I can't get up and move. Like I be stuck. So yeah, that's been weird. Not weird. I feel like this book has shown me that I probably always felt like this, but now I'm just like in a place where I can start feeling it, and that's a lot.
So this idea of being chaste is only allotted for women. You touched on this as you talk about the rules of maintaining the patriarchal image of having to be married, but never God, despite creating him. And once this so-called virginity is taken away outside of the rules of marriage, once a woman has walked over her permanent fast girl territory, she is then irredeemable. Will you expound more upon this particular section, which was probably one of my favorites of your memoir, and what conversations you hope to spark from those who read this part of your book?
I always had beef with desirability, like since a kid, since very, very small, and that's just from being a dark-skinned Black girl, which is a very specific experience. And then when you add things on top of that, like queerness, fat phobia, like the intersections of like all these isms, I always, like, even when people would compliment like something physically about me, it felt vapid and empty, and it didn't resonate with me because it's like, what does that have to do with like who I am? And I didn't understand why I felt like that, because like, of course I can appreciate beauty. I can appreciate like you look good or like an attractive person, but it's something in my head since I was a little kid of knowing that like it's a trap. It's a trap. And like people should not be getting treated differently based on like if they are fuckable or not. Like it's weird. It's always been weird to me. And I think because I've been on both ends of it, of like not being deemed desirable because of like colorism and body image and like all these other things. And then also when you are desirable, how it's not different. It's still like, what is this? Like, what are we doing? And I'm not just saying, I'm saying culturally and socially, like I always felt like that. And I think when I was writing that, the church thing with like the sister somebody, you know, knowing that she does not deem me as a beautiful girl, like a little girl. I'm a kid, I'm 10, and because you don't find me desirable, because you're leaning into like this patriarchal narrative of like what is beauty and like who should get looked at and who should get picked and who should like get married and like have kids, like who is lucky enough to do this, which is crazy, because first of all, men like anything. And like why is everything about us supposed to please somebody who don't even live up to their idea that they have of you? Like that never resonated for me, and that's from being in church. That was always crazy to me, and I think I always wanted to write about desirability. I probably always will write about desirability because I don't have the complete language for it, and I want to figure it out of why it's like this hierarchy of who is deserving of humanity, but like the humanity is still not human, if you get what I'm saying. It's not human at all. Like it's all conditional. I think like growing, like as I got older, and like it depends on texturism, featureism, all this stuff. So yes, I'm dark skinned, but like I have a little nose, so like that's another thing. Or like my hair is nappy, and that's another thing. And then when I had locks, and like my locks got long, in the way that people would make that my entire personality of like, oh my God, your hair is long and like it's so beautiful. And that would like make me icky. And I'm just like, why are we doing this? Like, why? You know what I mean? Like, this is crazy. Yeah. And I think, and it would hurt me to see other girls and like other films and other women rely on it, and like compare themselves based on these matters. I remember in college, my roommate, she sat down on my bed, like she would just sit down on my bed talking to me, and I'd be working. I'm like, girl, like, please. And she would be talking, and like she said one time, I'm thinking we friends, and she talking, and she was like, yeah, I think I need more pretty friends because I can't be out with like nobody who don't like dress like me or like be up to par. And I'm looking and I'm like, I said, what do being pretty got to do with being your friend? Like, and she was like, what do you mean? I was like, what do you mean? Like, and I was like, oh, and then it clicked in my head, oh, she don't think you pretty. And then that made me feel away. And that made me like think of like all my childhood stuff. And so I be ranting, y'all. So all that to say, I knew when I was writing like that on desirability, I just haven't figured it out yet. And that's why I always go back to it, because I know it's gonna kill us. It don't mean nothing, and it all has to do with patriarchy, and all which has to do with capitalism, which has to do with white supremacy, and it all just goes, and it all goes back to why you're repeating these white people talking points and like repurposing them, and just to make yourself feel supreme or better. Like, can we just? That's what I mean by like we don't see each other. We only see each other. Not to be dramatic, but social media, we only see each other. Instagram, we just see each other. We base an entire, I do it all the time. I did it all the time of like seeing somebody on the timeline and creating their whole life and their backstory, or like seeing somebody you find attractive and like creating a whole fake relationship in your head based on the attractiveness. So, and it's like, well, why am I doing it? And so I knew I wanted to write about it to be able to identify that within myself, because I'm not absolved of that. I'm not absolved of like of diminishing people based on like physical attributes, or like diminishing people based on like all these isms that I've talked about. But I know how to check myself, and I know where that stems from, and I know you know, the patriarchy, like I said, patriarchy, capitalism, all that shit. But like I said, it all goes back to everything is white people's fault.
Yes, let's move to Wakanda, y'all. What have you been waiting for?
But it just hurts me, like, because I've truly always like been able to connect with people, and it had nothing to do with like on the outside. And and it makes me feel horrible when I know I'm getting treated bad, or I'm getting treated as invisible because I'm darker than you, or like, so I'm always talking about colorism because that's what it is. And or I'm darker than you, or I'm louder than you, or like I'm not respectable enough. Like respectability politics is like a big thing. I'm Southern, I'm country. It's like all these things. And so yeah, my bad, y'all. I got on like a long
No,
tangent.
because
never apologize. Never apologize.
This is the point of the conversation where this is just like gonna be us talking, because recently when we talking about the church and the patriarchy, recently a friend of one of my best friends invited me to her church for this thing that they were having like around Valentine's Day, where it was supposed to be like this you know, like this singles dating event, right? And how they you know promoted it was like there'll be food and games and a panel discussion. And so when she first sent it to me, I never read the invitation until like the day of. And I'm like, a panel discussion.
First
and I
red
asked
flag.
her, I was like,
Right.
do you know how this is going to go? And she was like, no, I have no clue. And I get there, and it's funny, just like trying to get to the church, I was meet with all these obstacles. There was 2 car accidents, it was a downpour, and I'm driving through all of this rain, and I'm like, maybe I don't need to go to this. And I get to the church, and I'm walking in, and everybody's dressed up like a referee because it's Super Bowl weekend. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is the theme. And I go in, and it is majority of women there, and they are mad young. I am 43, almost 44 years old, and everybody in this space was very, very young. And I said, this is not an event for me. I already knew, like, looking around, the men that were there were really young. I'm like, I don't know about this. But it was when we had the panel discussion that really sealed the deal for me. And it was when the pastor's wife was talking about the desirability thing, and she was saying, you know, y'all over here talking about how you want this and that, and this guy with this 6-pack, and you don't have 2 packs to run together. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh no, she did not.
She dead ass serious.
She did. And she had prefaced this like earlier in the conversation about how she was never a person that would ever chase after a guy. They always chased it after her. And I was just kind of like, okay. And then later on, a young man who was probably, I want to say maybe like 21, 22, he stands up and he's talking about, you know, like how I'm always, you know, looking at the girls and I'm like, I want that. But then I realized after I get with that wasn't what I wanted. And so she was like, well, you know, earlier in your conversation, you were talking about you wanted that. And I'm assuming that you're talking about her physical body. And she said, I just want to basically tell you, like, maybe your problem is that you're looking at the physical when you have to, like, step out and find the personality of the person and really get to know the person. It took some of everything for me to not stand up, and say, ma'am, you are a contradiction. You just told us we got to look a certain way. And now you're telling this person, no, they don't need to look a certain way. You need to get to know them. It's like, well, what is it? What is it?
Because they tell girls different things than they do.
Yes.
Yes.
And so, you know, like within that point that you're talking about, obviously, yes, it is the patriarchy, it is white supremacy, it is capitalism, and all of these things stem from all of this wanting this power, this money, this greed, and how you can control a group of people with this idea of this is what you need to look like to be desirable, right? And it is a not, it feels like this battle that we, no matter how hard we fight, that we cannot win no matter what. No matter what. And it's just like, okay, so what you're saying, like for a person like me who is a fat Black woman, that I am just going to be without somebody, like
I'm not deserving because like exactly. I don't fit your ideal.
Or like, I gotta tap dance and make somebody see this personality.
Perform. It's all a performance. It's all a performance. I've been in very similar, I think my best friend invited me to come to a panel at her church. This last time I went to church. Keep in mind, I only went because she asked me, and it was that exact same thing of like, I thought I was going there to talk about a book, and like all these women were like, I thought that I'll never find love again, but let me show you how to get a husband. And I'm like, what is going? I'm in the wrong spot because I'm not the one for this. And I'm like, and people were listening, like people were taking notes. And I was like, this is a simulation. This cannot be real. Like this is not. And like you said, it's this rabbit hole of how do we beat it? Like why? And then it goes into, we can't beat patriarchy until men beat patriarchy, right? Because they want men to like them too. They want men to look at them too. They want men to think, I got the most money, I got the finest woman, I got the best car, I got the most successful career. Like they perform for each other. And I think it's like very harmful to put the onus on films to perform patriarchy when it's like a lose-lose, like you're setting girls up for like servitude and like being stuck, going back to that stuckness, like that inability to get out of it because, oh man, slavery.
Yes.
It's like it pisses me off because like I think about that all the time of why can't we beat this? Or like why can't we like just wake up and leave out the house and not worry about how our hair look or if our makeup is done or if or like if we look cute enough or like we might meet somebody, like who gives a damn? Like really, people be struggling with real life and y'all are setting up this ideal that this is when your life starts, when like patriarchy picks and chooses you, which it's not going to ever pick and choose you. It's always going to drop you. It's always going to leave you off worse than where you started because that's how it's set up. Like it's a system. And I think like we don't talk about it as a system. We talk about it in weird terms where it feels like we can gain something out of it. And that's not true. All it is gaining you a false sense of power. Like it's not real. It's all an illusion. But I talk about that all day.
Yes. We can also too, but you know.
So we only have like a couple of more questions.
Take your time. We ain't even been talking that long.
So I think this question is like a combination of like when me and Veronica were talking about, she watched you in a panel with Kiese Lehman, and y'all were talking about, you know, after the first thing that you all wrote, you got all these awards, recognition, but you fell into this kind of like depressive state afterwards. But y'all continue to move on, because I was like, I kind of felt that way too when I gave birth. That's like my book, my child. But I was in a fog for like a year and a half, maybe close to 2. I was telling Veronica, if not the pictures that she took, my family members took, I won't have a memory of who my child is. What was that like? It's a shared experience. Even though I was the front runner, my like memories are different. I was in a chair. I'm like asking myself, when would this end? theirs is all like pictures, cute, like bubbles, funny. This is the best thing ever in the life of me as a human being. So this all boils down to like, how did you find that, like, oh, I gotta come, how did you come out from all of that and be like, oh, let's hit everybody else with fruit punch? And how did you transition from all of that?
Thank you for sharing it with me. When does it end? I'm still stuck on that. I have not got out of it. It has been progressively worse with every book. And I'm not even joking. It's been progressively worse. And I always think like the next thing will lighten the weight. And that's not true. I don't know. I don't know how to get out from under it. I just know how to write. And I don't I know now that I can't continue to write about the things that I have. Like I can't write about myself no more. I know that for sure. Like I can't go personal narrative, memoir, like it's gonna kill me. It's gonna kill me. And so I know I have to pivot. I know I have to like try to make up some stuff or like maybe do another thing. But then it never stops. Like you said, like the outside, like you're looking at the pictures. I'm looking at myself on a panel. I'm looking at a review that's very kind. I'm looking at people wanting to read more of my work. I'm looking at praise again, but I've been seeing that since I was a kid of like that performance. I don't know how to stop it. And like I'm seeing the evidence of my work paying off. But then it goes into like, why did you do that? Like, or like, was you having a book worth like your sanity? But then it was also like maybe you didn't realize you were insane until the book, so maybe that was the blessing in it. Or like you know, like you looking at the pictures and you like you smiling, or like you looking at the replay and you like you look like you having a good time, and like you look like, but you really just winging it. Like you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know what's going on, you don't know. People tell me like you have done this in 5 years, and I'm like, no, I did it. I don't know what done happened the last 5 years. I just been on autopilot. I do not know. And so I think I started realizing that once I noticed that nothing was sticking. Like the stuff that I wanted to happen that started to happen, I would be proud of it for like 3 hours. And I would be like, all right, what's next? Or like, all right, let's move on. Or like, all right, that's done. I don't even sit with it. And so yeah, I think I'm at the point now where like when I say I'm sitting on the couch, I can't move, I'm paralyzed. It's like that coming out. Like I'm seeing the picture, you know, I'm actually seeing it. I'm not just looking at it. I'm seeing it. And I'm seeing like, Kendra, you have not like you're not proud of none of your books. You don't like talking about the books. You don't like it brings up bad memories. It brings up like loss. And I'm good with loss. Like I said, I've been around that since I was little. But and I'm pretty good with loss. But when I think of my books, that's all I can feel. It's like the loss of like parents, if I'm being honest. Like writing, it's like you orphaned in a sense, and they're still alive. And that's been weird. But I know that like you can get out the fog. You just have to like let yourself sit in the fog. And I'm trying to learn how to do that. But yeah, I ain't got through shit. I ain't got over it. I wrote a poem the other day where I said, I love poetry, by the way. Like poetry has really helped me see my emotions in a certain way. And I wrote secret, I ain't never got over nothing in my whole life. I don't want to. And that felt like one of the most true things I've ever written down. Because like I said, you can skip them first books because it's just been me trying to figure out how to say what I wrote in this book. It's gonna be the same topics. Maybe I'll talk about it a little bit differently, but I didn't realize it. And I would get mad at myself, like, why you keep dwelling on this? Or like, why you keep writing about this? Like, move on. And like people see it as success. And so I feel very ungrateful because to like ever complain about anything. Because this is what I wanted. Like literally since I started writing, this has been plan A, B, C, D. And so it's like, well, why would you like get on a panel and be like, I've had the worst years of my life, and every other year it seemed like it get worse. Like I thought I did it on this one, but like nope, new level. And so yeah, it's just been me trying to put the pictures together and like make an image, which goes back into performance of like, I understand I'm at a point now where I can't keep pretending and like keep performing. Like it don't even interest me no more. It used to be fun of like, hey, let me put on my little persona and make people laugh and do the thing that I've been doing, making people feel better in my expense. But yeah, I think looking at the images and looking at the picture, I can be like, I'm not gonna do it no more. And like, not only do I not want to do it and I can't do it, I'm literally not gonna do it. I'm gonna show up how I feel, and I want to be able to show that to other people, because I hid it for so long. And like you said, you look at your picture and you like everything. Like this is my kid. My kid is my book, and like, what am I gonna put inside of said book when I can't see myself? Yeah, like I'm a shell of a person. And like nobody is seeing it. And then it's like, what makes you think that's the brain thing, the trick of trauma. It's like, what makes you think you're so special that people should be able to notice things about you that you do not notice about yourself and that you can't acknowledge for yourself? But then it's like with this book, it's the idea that no, people should have noticed this about you because you were like 9 and you were like 8 and you were like 14. Like they should have noticed when you going into a whole different world and realm in your head when they speaking to you and you just looking off into space, or like you in the room, or like you got headphones on 20 hours a day, or like you crying, like so yeah, I'm just trying to figure it out. And I like, part of me loves like the childlike nature of myself and like the free spirited nature. Not part of me, all of me love that. Like I do love that about myself. But part of me is like, I don't want to be that age forever. Like I do not want to do it. Yeah.
What is the practice of this craft like for you when you're writing about significant moments that that shaped your life? Like what is it to do this work? And I don't mean particularly just this memoir, just like sitting down and writing, period. Like what is it to do this part of your life?
It's like it's a trick, but it's not like a bad thing, because sometimes, like I said, I'm not going to write about myself no more because I felt an anxiety that was crippling whenever it was time to write, and knowing I had to do it the next day and knowing I had to finish it. So it took me forever to even start. Every single day, it would be like 8 hours of me trying to like talk myself out of the anxiousness of like knowing what I got to do. But then on the flip side of that, it's literally the only Okay, so you know, like when you work out and like you hate it while you're doing it, and then afterward, like you get a burst of energy. That's how I feel with like writing. It's literally that, and it takes like it's just like facing it and like starting. So the starting is hard, and then I get in the middle of it, and it's like I have never felt more myself ever. I've never felt like so sure of anything because I've tried all the art forms and like I can do it, but I can't do it to make money off of it. I can just do it for fun. I'm not that good at it. And so I think like with writing, the process has been me understanding that I'm very fortunate and very lucky that what I'm best at and what I love to do collides and coincides. Like I don't have to separate it. And I think that's why I try to be diligent about it and like not take it for granted and like not even on the days where like I'm just like, I ain't got it in me. Like, I can't write today. I try to write something in my phone. Like, I always try to do that. Because it is like like I can feel myself. You know, when you feel yourself getting better at something, the more that you do it, I like that feeling. And like that feels fulfilling for me. And I know that like I would do it if nobody gave me a dime. Like I would do it. I would do it on my own. I would still share my work. I would still put it out for free. Like I want to put everything out for free. I don't know why this book is $27. That's crazy to me. I'm like, why is this not like $10? Who got that price point? But yeah. So that's been like the process of because up until recently, I never would tell people I write. I never would tell people like I'm an author. That don't sound correct for me. Like that feels weird to say when people ask me. I'm just like, oh, sometimes I write essays, or like sometimes I write poems, or like I would never be like, oh, I'm an author. And I think it's a tangent, but like the idea that I had of that title didn't feel like me. And like being in spaces with writers who you grew up reading, or like being in spaces with them, and like sometimes it's like I see why they say don't meet your hero, and then sometimes it's like, oh my god, like this is weird. Like this is weird. And I think the process of me trying to learn how to talk about my work has been more difficult because I don't be knowing what I'm doing. I'm just doing it. And I would hear like people speak about their work and like they know exactly what they're doing from beginning to end. They know how to talk about it, speak about it. And I'm just like, bro, I'm just a little ghetto girl from Dallas, and this book about what they had made up on the back. I don't know what to tell you. Like, so yeah, it's been like a long journey of just even being able to feel comfortable enough to say like I'm a writer, because I didn't feel like I thought it was a certain way to be, and like you had to know certain things and you had to know the names of certain forms and things like that. But you know, that's what makes your writing and your voice stick out, when you the stuff you don't know more than the stuff that you do know. Like, yeah.
Well, we are at the point of our conversation that we like to ask every guest, every single guest that comes on. We want to know what your top 5 favorite books are of all time, or because we give y'all options,
Or
what are the top 5 things that you are most excited about that you want people to know? Are there books? Is there an album? Is there something that you've recently watched, or you're just kind of like, I want people to know about this? So you can pick either or a combination. It's up to you.
I think I would know the books because I'm not sure. Okay, so Wounds of Passion by Bell Hooks for sure is in there. I'm just a kid who grew up reading all my mama's urban fiction novels off her bookshelf. And I'm gonna say Chasing Destiny by Eric Jerome Dickey.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite books. It don't hold up that well, but it was it for me. I'm reading it now. I'm rereading it now, and I'm like, all right, but it's still amazing to me. Like it's just, I love it. How to Slowly Kill Yourself and Others in America, for sure. The first edition of it is my favorite. And then how many is that?
That's three.
Oh, okay. So I recently just finished Lily Ann by Ntozake Shange. And this is a book I should have read before I wrote this book, because it's a novel, but she literally separates each chapter with a therapy session. And I was like, it's amazing. So that's probably one of my favorite books. And then one more is not the complete book, but the first essay in White Girls by Hilton Owls. It's like a 95-page essay, which is like half the book. And but it's literally like the most perfect piece of writing that I can think of. Like it's just so tight and beautiful and like just full and tender. I think that's the word, tenderness. Like I'm trying to find tenderness in my own words, and so like rereading that all the time just makes me feel like it's possible, you know. So I would say, oh no, okay, can I add one more since I said an essay?
You can have an honorable mention.
Fly Girl by Omar Tyree, because that book changed my life as a child. It's long. It's just long. It's a coming of age story. And it felt like the first time I read, besides like The Coldest Winter Ever to an extent, but like Fly Girl felt like the girls that I know and like the experiences that we had. And that was the first book that I read that was like, even though some of it don't hold up still, but it's really, really good. It's like a story of like a childhood that felt right. Yeah.
Well, there you have it. Yay. So I really wanted to thank you for being with us, sharing space with us. I think this is our most like honest interview in like, how long we doing this? 3 years? Yeah, since my child was born. Yes, this is the most honest interview that we've talked to, we've done. So please accept the gift of love. Please accept this recognition that we're giving you, because you did it. You earned it. I know it's hard to like, you know, do all of this, and I completely understand you, because it's kind of like, you know, when you talk to people, you're unearthing every single thing that you've already written and given away to other people. I'm like, you already read it. Like, why are you asking me about it? You know? So that I understood so much, because even with the questions, we were trying to be very careful, and also, you know, like with the intention would be like, please, like, Veronica, does this sound dumb? Please tell me, you know, or like offensive, not in a way of like, oh, because, you know, you looking at her like in a different way. It's just like offensive in like your feelings, because this is your experience, you know, and validation is real. So we really truly appreciate you for being so open and real and so gracious, and you did achieve that tenderness with this book. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And all I want to say is, can we be your friend and visit you at Phoenix?
Yes,
in San Antonio, not Phoenix.
Yes.
San Antonio, Texas.
Can I visit y'all in Florida?
Yeah.
No, don't come here. We'll come to you, because like we're trying to get out. This is
we
like
can
Get
be
Out.
friends. We can be friends 100%. And I just want to say thank y'all and like please receive this love. Like thank y'all so much for those questions. I'm like the stuff that we are scared to ask people is what we need to be talking about, and us not talking about it is part of the problem. Like just being scared to ask with love. That's the antidote, like ask with love, like you said. But thank y'all so much for those questions, and like thank you for like just like y'all the work that you're doing. Like please continue to do so, like you're doing so much. Yeah, and just thank you for like your sisterhood and like friendship, for like being able to see it. That's beautiful to me. Yeah, and thank you for having me.
Bye.
Good night.
We hope you enjoyed our show.
Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Vulgar Geniuses.
Our theme song that you're nodding your head along to was produced by Sean Kantrowitz. You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Sean Dammit. That's SeanDammit.
Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our podcast. See you soon!
Deuces.